If you want an image of the future, imagine a boot stamping on a human face. Forever. Thought crime does not entail death. Thought crime is death.
Today is a major milestone in the mission to create a safer life online for people across the UK. And we are absolutely ready now at Ofcom to crack on with the implementation of these new laws. And we feel very privileged to have been entrusted with this role. In a matter of weeks now, we will come out with the standards that we expect tech firms to put in place to protect children and to make sure that all of us are protected from illegal activity like fraud.
I'm not being hyperbolic when I say that this is an extremely important issue that really everybody involved, I'm hopeful that you will help get this video be seen, because this is truly the death of a free and open internet by government control. This is the level of China's red wall, their firewall, internet firewall, government control over the internet. And it just passed very, very, very easily. And it's going to spread all over the world now that the blueprint is out. So I want to talk about this new online safety bill. And I want to talk about just why it's important we get involved and spread the message around, because this is truly frightening stuff. And I hope that you'll leave a like on the video and that you'll share it out there, because I'm going to explain exactly what this means. Now, there's a big celebration as the quote-unquote online safety bill passed the other day. And it passed. So the online safety bill mandates new age-checking measures to prevent kids from seeing stuff they shouldn't. It also pushes large social media platforms to become more transparent about the kids. Now, remember that our government will constantly stand on the dead bodies to steal our freedoms. And now this is the same thing as censorship in the 80s and 90s when, you know, think of the kids, all this kind of stuff, right? They're fine to go on TikTok and consume that, though, and to have their teachers groom them, but that's neither here nor there. It also gives parents allegedly the ability to report issues online. Potential penalties are harsh, up to 10% of the company's global annual revenue, of course, which will be passed on to all of this. But not only does online verification obviously raise serious privacy concerns, the bill also put encrypted messaging services like WhatsApp at risk. Under the terms of this bill, encrypted messaging apps would be obligated to check users' messages for bad material. Depending on how the rule is enforced, it could essentially break apps' end-to-end encryption promise, which prevents third parties, including the app itself, from viewing the user's messages. Meaning, if you use Signal or whatever, any of these encrypted messaging apps, now the government can just find whatever reason they want to be reading your messages. Oops! We were looking for pictures of kids, but accidentally we saw you helped a buddy out with some log removal of some downed trees, and he paid you $200. So, well, let's deploy the IRS to make sure we get our money. Oops, we were just trying to protect the kids. Scanning everybody's messages, by the way, and this is what the WEF and all these weird three-letter agencies want. You see this too, right? So many distractions in the last few weeks. Many of us were wondering what else could actually be going on behind the scenes. What have they been trying to distract us from? So it says they just passed a bill in Parliament, which means that anyone who challenges the government's official stance on anything online could be prosecuted and quickly incarcerated. The police will be working closely with the infamous traitors of the 77th Online Task Force, which was created to crush resistance to government's coup response. I mean, this is nuts, and it's coming to a neighborhood near you. Okay, right now, this is happening in the United Kingdom, but then what's going to happen? It's going to hit Canada, and that's going to hit the United States. That's how this stuff works. Thanks, UK. You send us all your most annoying late-night television hosts and all your censorship. You think this is a joke? Look at what the FBI, just look at the Twitter files and how the FBI was already involved in this kind of stuff. Carl Benjamin writes, for anyone wondering, there's a lot of pernicious stuff in the online safety bill, and some good. But the part that really stands out for me is the government's intent to police truth and falsity, calling it a threat to the way of life. Inaccurate information, regardless of intent, can be harmful. For example, the spread of inaccurate anti-poke messaging online poses a risk to public health. The government is particularly worried about disinformation, which we know there is disinformation. That's a thing, okay? But we also know there is disinformation. And that's a different kind of disinformation where it goes against the mainstream narrative. Disinformation threatens these values and principles and can threaten public safety, undermine national security, fracture community cohesion, and reduce trust. I mean, look, I'm not a Civil War kind of guy, you know, but this is, I try to be very even-handed, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to overstate. Yes, I normally report on pointless Hollywood dreck, but this is nuts. The Online Safety Act is an act of betrayal. The proposed act as it stands in bill form is an abstract jumble of ill-defined and seemingly meaningless terms requiring practically limitless legal interpretation before anyone can even begin to consider what it means. A thorough breakdown of this mess has been attempted by Cyberlegal. The draft of Online Safety Bill is nothing if not abstract. Resolutely eschews specifics. The detailing of the draft bill's preliminary design is to be executed in course of secondary legislation. MPs can also reject secondary legislation, but they can't amend it. This is a complete betrayal of the democracy most people imagine they live in. It's difficult to envisage now how the opacity of the Online Safety Bill is anything other than deliberate, meaning it's deliberately opaque. It's like the terms like hate speech and misinformation just get applied to whatever they want to apply it to. This raises the suspicion that the government knew that openly stating their full intentions for what will be presumably become the Online Safety Act would elicit stiff opposition from Parliament and public. It appears that the government has consequently attempted to obscure its intent. I mean, it is insane to me. Just giving them rights to go right through your Signal president, Meredith Whittaker, by the way, wrote here, okay, the fact remains that scanning everyone's messages would destroy privacy as we know it. That was true last year as it is today. WhatsApp will never break our encryption and remains vigilant against threats to do so. Shout out WhatsApp. This is Signal president Meredith Whittaker issued tentative praise for the ongoing conversation around the bill. While it's not everything we wanted, we are more optimistic than we were when we began engaging with the UK government. It matters that the government came out publicly clearly acknowledging that there are no technology that can safely and privately scan everyone's communications. Whittaker said that in a statement to The Verge. Well, yeah, but that's the point. They're going to scan the people's messages that they want to scan. You see, UK opens a new chapter in digital regulation as Parliament passes Online Safety Bill. Controversial UK legislation that brings a new regime of content moderation rules for online platforms and services, establishing the comms watchdog Ofcom as the main internet regulator. An internet regulator now has been passed by Parliament today, paving the way for royal assent and the Online Safety Bill becoming law in the coming days. Speaking during the bill's final stages at the House of Lords, Lord Parkinson of Whitley Bay reiterated the government's intention for the legislation to make the UK the safest place in the world to be online, particularly for kids. Yeah, think of the kids. Following affirmative votes, as peers considered some last stage amendments added, now moves to very swiftly to Ofcom, who stand ready to implement it. Of course they do. They've already been doing it illegally behind the scenes, I'm sure. Latterly, the Secretary of State driving the bill has she proceeded over some trimming back of its scope. Back end last year, excising provisions that had been focused on legal but harmful content following concerns about the impact of free speech, although speech and civil rights groups obviously remain very concerned. Another major strand of the controversy is the potential impact on web security and privacy, as the bill hands sweeping powers to Ofcom to require platforms to scan messages for content for anything illegal. A parade of end-to-end encrypted platforms and services have been warned over the risks such powers pose, with several well-known services threatening to simply leave the UK unless the bill was amended to safeguard strong encryption. Well, they're just going to leave. I mean, this is a direct... Okay, so you see, joint secondhand reading briefing on the online safety bill, monitoring private messages, clause 110 of the online safety bill, the ability to issue internet services, social media sites, with a notice to deal with, protecting kids, whether communicated publicly or privately, means they'll be able to read your messages to protect the kids. The key issue here is the inclusion of private messaging. With this clause, as it stands, private messaging services such as WhatsApp are end-to-end encrypted, which means that third parties cannot access, but now they'll be able to. Cybersecurity experts such as Internet Society, a global nonprofit advocating for open and trusted internet, have demonstrated that the only way for service providers to offer end-to-end encryption to comply with the duties imposed by this new bill would be to remove or weaken the encryption they offer by introducing a scanning technology into their platforms. Obviously, there are threats to the privacy and freedom of expression. We acknowledge the laudable aims of the OSB to tackle serious human rights issues and the advocacy of civil rights groups, blah, 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 blah. Nonetheless, we are concerned that in effectively requiring private companies to monitor all users' private online messages in order to comply with their various duties, the OSB risks undermining users' rights to privacy and freedom of expression. I mean, this is nuts. Mass surveillance backdoor. Should the online safety bill's requirement on private messaging services to monitor the private messages of users' account in practice to requirement to impose client-side scanning, we echo the concerns raised by legal and cybersecurity experts that would equate this to a generalized, state-mandated mass surveillance of communications of the private sector, which is exactly what it's going to turn into. It's not going to stop any things from going boom. It's not going to save anybody's lives, but it is going to find that group of moms who have something negative to say about the poke. And this kind of stuff is coming here to the United States too. It's coming to Canada. This is the blueprint, and this is the beginning of the end for free and open internet. Please share this video, and if this is the first time you've seen one of my videos, please do subscribe or follow down below, and we'll talk to you again real soon.